Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you all for joining in early for this wonderful session, Infrastructure Conclave, in fact, and this session, and we are talking straight away on money. Dr. Jaishankar, if I could start the conversation with you, for last 20 years since we have started talking about putting in a lot of private capital into the infrastructure side. The finance always had been a pain point. We have seen many big corporate houses, burning their hands, and then government trying to innovate many models. Hybrid annuity came from Mr. Gadkari's ministry. Then railways also tried, various attempts to attract the private capital, but still, India's infrastructure continues to be a risky capital game. So what is your thinking, how we can, de-risk India's infrastructure? What sort of regulatory and policy, roadblocks you see, which needs to be removed if, we have to become a, developed country by 2047? So mic is yours.
Good morning, first of all, and thanks for having me here. I think India's infrastructure is being built on the aspirations of the people of India. So whichever government, whatever be the kind of interests anyone may have, there's no going back, and the need to have world-class infrastructure is imminent, and nothing less will do. That's something, that's the bottom line with which I would like to begin. We have a national infrastructure pipeline lining up the projects under construction in different stages, and I think it's a very unique exercise comprising of more than 11,000 projects, and I only wished it's high time that probably this national infrastructure pipeline is actually classified into state-wise infrastructure pipeline. I think that would be better to have a more transparent and more visible pipeline of projects spanning across India. Now, the staggering investments of 160 lakh crores, it reflects the future vision. It's not just about government funding infrastructure, which has been happening till so far. In majority of the cases, government has been the major push for infrastructure. Unless the private sector also is made to participate, is given the opportunities to participate, and participates with full vigor, the vision of a more dynamic and resilient the country, nation, would not be achieved. I think that's very, very imminent and very, very important that the private sector investments takes a front seat very soon. I think that's very important. And I look at the necessities for this in two classes. One, the real side, where actual development and actual concessions and the contracts are given. And the other side, the kind of finances that have to be made available. I think we have to look at it from both angles. As far as the the real side is concerned, the concession environment has been developed quite well, but it's not enough. We are much better than how we were 20 years ago, where we started learning how to do infrastructure, how to start, writing infrastructure concessions by starting off with road concessions.
Dr. Jaishankar, if I could, sorry to interrupt you, if I could, intervene here, we understand, a lot of innovation had happened. But the challenge right now, which many of your peers face, is the risk quotient in the infrastructure side. Government tried to innovate, and try to de-risk projects. But still, we don't see differential capital coming in, long-term capital coming in. We have seen some of this coming into the renewable side, where MIGA type of security is coming in. But we don't see this coming into roads, highways, railways, or the others infrastructure sector. Help us in that, giving that insight. What need to be done there.
Actually, when investors look at making investments, first thing is whether there's stability in the environment, whether there's predictability of cash flows, and of course, as far as the environment is concerned, it has to be a more a long-term vision and the kind of support that comes from the government. In place of in the infrastructure sector, I may say that all three are there. It's only when a project goes bad and a project is actually a real NPA or the viability of a project is really affected only in cases where there is willful sabotage or corruption. If that's not there, any infrastructure project is safe or as good, viable, predictable, stable, and good enough for investments. And that holds good for most of the projects. And second part of it is there are so many multiple agencies, multiple consortium. So everybody there are so many eyes getting into the project. So it's not really going to be so easy for a project to really get derailed and willfully get into a sabotage atmosphere. But more importantly, from the policy side, we have multiple agencies again, at the center level, at the state level, at sectoral levels, and there are different concession standards. We need standardization. We need more transparency in different concession clauses and terms. Each sector has its own way of looking at infrastructure. Each state has its own way of looking at it. And the kind of hybrid annuity model we are talking about, there also you have 40-60 and we have 60-40. We have 12 and something else. So many things happening. I think we need to make it much more standardized for people to understand from that side, from the real side. That's more important. And standardization can come about not by policies, not by just notifications of government, but by a law. We need, if a government changes, the terms of contract must not change. The enforceability must be there. Stakeholder interest must be protected. So all these things can happen by way of a law. And even now there is a more clamor for such a uniform law, because World Bank has also come out with its own
so
study.
Let's de-risk this conversation also. Let's bring private sector's perspective. Soni sir, L&T is one of the leaders in the construction side and in the infrastructure implementation side. But we still see that, where government also, is a bit worried that, there are not multiple L&Ts available. So, there are some of your competitors who are there, but still, the capacity is limited, right? And now we are seeing that capex expenditure is slowing down. And one of the reasons cited is that, the capacity is very less. So what is your thought process that, how that sort of risk can be de-risked, how new players can be incentivized, or what sort of, because some efforts were made, but what sort of roadblocks do you see hindered that thing?
So good morning, and thanks for calling me for this session and given the opportunity. I beg to differ, Mr. Jaishankar, what I have been telling about that there is no risk involved in the project's business. We have been in this business, and you are told that L&T is one of the premium companies in the EPC sector. So I will just give you the reasons why this financial finances are not coming up to this type of infrastructure developments. Basically, I feel that mode of financing is not that important. It's basically the de-risking the projects are important. And over the years, what we have seen that the type of conditions, what we are having, especially the financial conditions, payment terms, and a lot of risk mitigation has to be done. The plan has to be there. ROW's issues are there. and land acquisitions and other places we are facing a lot of issues. And finally, if you see that dispute resolution is another one big thing, which we are not able to come to the terms. Though a lot of places like NHI and other places, Vishwas and other schemes are there, but still we find it's a long way to go when if any disputes comes out. And timely completion, if it is not there, the finances certainly will be they'll be having a difficulty to finance in this way. So de-risking these things, that having a better conditions, better type of contracts, and then it will be a much better option. Then finances will be coming. Second thing, you're talking about the renewable. The renewable, the financing is getting stabilized. That is basically the risk is very less. If you see that only two components are there, if you see that land and modern installations are there, and PPAs are in place, that means end products are, sale is assured. So obviously the risking is very limited. So because of that, the renewable finance is coming to maturity.
Renewable was because stability is there, de-risking is done.
Yeah.
So you have witnessed a lot of innovative products coming in for the finance side.
Yeah.
And my guy is actually giving you cheaper loan than the sovereign guarantee. So these type of innovation is happening. But in the road sector, highways, railways, civil aviation, we are yet to see stability and de-risking.
You're right.
So that's why everybody is worried that how we can de-risk these projects. Government innovated. Hybrid annuity was the product of the same thought process.
Yeah.
Even in civil aviation, similar innovations were made. But problem is also that the capacity of private sector is also limited. Their capacity to handle projects, their capacity, and then foreign players are also not very keen, and their issue is that they see risk as a big factor, and it's very difficult to de-risk for them.
Yeah.
So that's why I was positioning you that how.
So this is what you are telling is right. Foreign players or anybody, even that institutional investors or even that corporate investors, they are not able to put that in because the risk factors are more in the EPC projects and infrastructure funding part of it. And the consistency is missing. If you see that, we have done the high-speed rail, and then government announced many sectors, but still that next package is not known. Then we have put all the infrastructure, resources and everything. We are not even aware of what is going to happen. That DFCC corridor, this is a very huge package, and we have done most of the things. It's again that next packages when it's going to come. This is no guarantee of that. There is no further. So we have to de-risk this. We are going for the international business. In fact, we are doing almost 40% in the international. So that's the reason we have to de-risk ourselves. But obviously, for making infrastructure foray into that India and take it forward, obviously de-risking of the project completion and to support that, it is needed.
Dr. Jaishankar,
I will just extend this de-risking part. See, this de-risking part is what we are talking about. We have reached a certain level. We are moving in a direction. I'm looking at the sector and how the infrastructure development can take place for the nation. It's not just about one company or maybe one group. It's about the entire nation. If we look at it from all sectors' point of view, we never had private investments in the railways. We have Alstom, we have Webtech, we have, in the airports, we have the Zurich coming in for the... I'm only talking about greenfields. As far as the brownfields are concerned, InvITs today, we have 19 InvITs and we have almost all the InvITs being supported by private partners. Why? Because these are all completed projects. Completed projects have visible revenues, predictable cash flows. Greenfields, there are problems. Why there are problems? The problems are because most of the projects are gestated long, and particularly where there's vast land development issues, obviously, delays will be there. And how you can, and the approvals from the government, the forest approvals, the clearances, these are the main reasons for delay. The project getting bad because of certain things, the risks, project risks are very, very less. But what are the other risks? The other risks are the ones which we have to tackle. And if we have to tackle the other risks, equitable risk allocation between the private and public sectors have to be there. And if that has to be there, you need to have standard concession agreements with some clauses for the protecting the concessionaires. Dispute and all come after the projects. But while the project is being commissioned, you need to have a certain environment which the private sector feels confident to transgress. We have a termination payment in road sector. Probably no other country in the world has that termination payment, and it's a huge amount which is coming from the government's exchequer, from the budget. Why should we have that? We can have this termination payment mechanism in the housed in the insurance companies. They can have a project completion risk insurance. That's what IIFCL has been talking about for ages. We have some multilaterals also supporting that. All that the concessioning authorities have to do is subscribe to this insurance, and on a timely, in case of any such events are faced, be it land issues, be it approvals, or be it any other unforeseen issues, then this should step in. I think that will be a big risk mitigant for the entire infrastructure developing economy. From the financial side, today we are talking about long-term finances. Long-term finances, what is long-term finances? Everyone thinks that 30-year finances or 40-year finances is long-term. No Indian bank or no Indian financial institution is equipped enough to give that. Why? Because our sources are all just 5 years and 3 years. If we need long-term, the regulator must free up the environment. I am the chairman of the IIFCL UK. I sit in the board, where I see the restructuring happening of standard assets. The board is empowered. Here, the boards are not empowered. The Reserve Bank says that if you elongate a refinance structure, when it goes from one institution or to another institution, the terms have to be the same. How can you say that the terms which were developed ab initio for a project has to be the same throughout the life of the project, even after 40 years or 50 years? These are all insane, and it has to really change. We need to have the definition of restructuring of standard assets changed. I think that's something Reserve Bank has to do. Another thing is there, you take the case of a phenomenon called technical NPAs. I mean, I have not heard of it anywhere in any other part of the world. We have technical NPAs, NPAs which are going beyond 2 years. They are deemed as NPAs even though the cash flows are there, even though the borrower is regular in payment. I mean, we need to re-look and review all these kind of things, We have to have a separate regulation for infrastructure finance. What today happens is the infrastructure finance companies and infrastructure finance institutions are regulated the same way as retail NBFCs who have unsecured retail assets. The unsecured retail assets is the, protection of such, the depositor environment is the job of the Reserve Bank. But those principles are applied even to infrastructure finance companies, which actually gets a little confusing. We need to have some separation. We have to have specialization. We have to have a separate set of regulations. We need separate laws. I think these all, if it happens, we will be in a much better position to scale up and get into the trajectory to achieve the objectives that we are talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sir, Soni sir, most of the things which now Jaishankar ji is saying is matching with your thought process. But sir, to make things happen, companies like L&T, they will have to work with the government to de-risk and allow, the innovation like development finance institutions to flourish, come. Then, allow multilateral banks also to come forward. And now the another devil which is coming, which is the climate change, and their impact on the infrastructure. That also has to be measured. That will also change the calculations. So how prepared are, the India's private players, especially L&T, for many of these things?
Like I earlier told, we are in some sectors of like data center, even semiconductors, even for that renewable energy. We are investing, and earlier also, if you see, we are having a separate company, IDPL, who was the investor in all the road sectors. Now we have sold it off to AWS recently only. Otherwise, we have invested in power plants, we have invested in transmission lines also. So we have been doing it. So there was a mixed response or mixed, you can say, understanding of the subject for us, and then we have faced some issues and all. But like sir has told, Jaishankar sir has told that things are improving and then things are maturing enough. But still we find that unless we are able to complete the things in time, project completion is done in a right manner and with the government support, what you have been talking. But we talk about that developing companies like L&Ts for infrastructure projects, not only for doing here and abroad also. So for that purpose, we need to give them the strength, and that, like we have been suggesting to NHI that we can have a grading system of pre-qualification. Instead of going everybody getting qualified, they don't have the financial strength, the type of projects what they are handling. A person who's not done 1,000 crore project, he's getting qualified 20,000 crore. So those things has to be mitigated, and then you can have the grading systems. Earlier NHI planned that, but finally is scrapped. So similar way, we can have a grading systems of the EPC companies who will be able to participate. Like we have been doing the single jobs of DFCC corridor 20,000 crore. High speed, we have got a job of 35,000 crore. So those spectrum should be fixed to some bigger companies. They should be encouraged. And obviously these conditions like timely completion, which are the risks are there in terms of working capital management, in terms of government support for the ROW and this one. This has to be there. Otherwise, once project completion goes haywire, every finance is getting disturbed. So not only the financing companies, even the companies are getting their funds lost. So that is the reason we are not going for a bigger one. But still, there is a lot of scopes are there. We are talking about 2040 around 5 trillion investment in the infrastructure, where I think we are, as per that present government budgeting and all, it goes to somewhere around 1.5 trillion only. So balance gap has to be filled up by these financial companies who will come from abroad. So to attract them, we have to show them that regulatory frameworks are in place, clearances are in place, like single window clearance and things. Now people started coming and all that, they started investing in all. But we have to go a long way to do the things.
Dr. Jaishankar, I also want to prick your mind on, this, for last 2 years, RBI is pushing, green deposits and green finances, and they are even allowing green bonds to be raised. But still, we don't see much of attraction to it. So you must be monitoring it. This is actually cheaper capital in Europe for many of the projects. But in India, we are not been able to replicate. Same is with the bond side. In Europe, people are raising bonds very easily, especially if they link it with green and climate. But in India, it's a nightmare. So how do you see, and what sort of corrections do you want to happen so that this can start happening in India as well?
Today, the color of money is the same, it's all color agnostic. We don't have anything for the green or blue or white or any other color. It's all the same. We need a taxonomy. I was just talking to the governor just about a week ago, and we were talking to him about how important it is to have a taxonomy for ensuring a development of a green market, sustainability and sustainable projects. The verification, the identification, the verification, the ensuring that it's not a greenwashing. There are many things. And here also, the financial institutions have their role to play, like ours. We have done a sustainability framework. We have put our targets. Before that, we want to double our renewable energy and green portfolio to, double the portfolio. Presently, it occupies about 12%, and we want to make it 25% by 2030. So we have got a vision. And we have also put a strategy in place. But, if that has to really be supported, it has to be supported by the rating agencies on one side and the regulators on the other side. Rating agencies in the form of rating, and we have got our first green rating also, I may say, ESG rating, the first agency, first financial institution to get that AAA rating from that, from the renowned rating agencies. But the taxonomy is important, and at the same time, issuance for the issuers as well as for the investors of green bonds, we need to have incentives, at least in the initial stages, because developing a sustainable market and sustainable ecosystem means we have to incur certain investments ab initio. There will be a hump in the costs. We understand that. And if that has to be borne, it has to be actually evened out by various regulatory incentives. That's how it has happened in various countries. If I issue a green bond elsewhere in the world, in the European side or maybe in New York, wherever, I will be able to get some greenium for that. Whether I'm able to get that green premium in India, today I don't expect anything. So why should I do that? So that will be the question. Any, be it an investor or be it an issuer, both of them will be dogged with. So you need to address that. The rating agency has to give the support on one side, and the regulator has to also, aptly support that. So that is what we have been talking about. And unless that happens, we may be pushing it. We may really want some green market to develop, but it won't develop till we have some very good clarity on that.
Soni sir, if you can help us, he has given us the finance side of the story, but still, there is a consciousness and there is a infrastructure's longevity, and we have seen some of the disasters happening across the world. Do you think now the infrastructure companies are any which way getting more cautious of many of these elements and bringing in the changing in engineering, bringing in and advocating the policy change at the government level? So what is the thought process in the infra companies?
As far as this damages done to the structures and then something which is happening, we always feel that as a L&T, we believe in the quality and doing the jobs which are as per the standards. So obviously, what my first point what earlier has told, there should be some identification of the level of the contractors who can do the job, instead of opening up, especially in the state governments and other places, where what is happening is we don't have the standard documentations or standard set of conditions where we can have it. So obviously that the person who does the job, if he is not capable of handling those type of projects, it becomes an issue for them. And finally, it reflects on that way. So it is better to that have some demarcation sort of thing, and identify that I think grading system should be there. And then certainly these companies who are going, once you are qualified a certain level of projects, and after that, once you do in a proper way, subsequently that can be elevated to the next level. And that's why level keep on changing, and then number of players can go, and then that's what we have suggested to Niti Aayog also, in a similar fashion, for not only for that domestic as well as international operations, how to improve that number of agencies who can compete on a global basis.
So thank you very much. We have identified a lot of roadblocks and some of the solutions which two gentlemen have given us. So we are also giving the opportunity to the audience, if many of these learned people, they want to use your experience and your insights. If somebody has some question, they can ask. Please, sir. Please identify yourself and ask the question.
Good morning. My name is Sanjeev Gupta. I'm responsible for the Infrastructure Finance Committee and Solar Energy Committee at PhD Chamber. I thank you both for actually having dissected it so well for all of us. My small question to you, sir, is that do you think that the Government of India's desire of getting a 3-year infrastructure public-private partnership model being created by the state governments, is it really in an advanced stage of preparedness, or can you estimate how long could it take for the states to build up this PPP pipeline on the basis of which all the challenges are being, infrastructure challenges are being proposed to be addressed now? Just curiosity, sir, if you can address. Thank Thank you.
Sanjay, I really don't know how long it will take. Definitely, I can't be seen speaking for the state governments on that. But yes, the intention is very good that the public-private partnership mechanism is being, promoted there, and it's all to, get the private investments. As far as projects are concerned, I think there are many projects, and pipeline is definitely there. It just is how you structure the concessions and how you structure the contracts. Like I earlier said, the confidence will be boosted if there is a visibility of cash flows, and the cash flows can be predictable. That's the bottom line for any the success of any project and determination of viability. So in that context, the enforcement rules is something which many have, many of the developers, many of the promoters have their apprehensions. And that's where we need to work on, and that's where we need to develop the confidence and ensure that there is an equitable risk distribution. And if we need to do that, we have to also look at examples elsewhere in the world where we have specific laws. Today, our contract law is quite weak. Let's accept that. We have to accept that. We have seen the earlier cases where one government went and the other government came and imposed different tariffs. They just changed the PPA structures. So there are many examples. It's not just one, it's across the country. So we see all these things as very, very major roadblocks. So I think unless you have an enforcement mechanism, a law which no government, even if they want to change, should not be able to change. It has to change only under certain circumstances, extraneous circumstances where inflation or any other indexing has to be there. And then, we have to see it. These are all long-term propositions that we have. Infrastructure is public good. The government or the society that develops infrastructure today, it develops it for ages. One airport will be enjoyed by not one generation, but maybe 10 generations. Costs also have to be borne by 10 generations. It's not just one generation which bears the cost as it's being done today. I think these are things which we need to look at while developing such long-term contracts. And you take the case of examples in the world. You have the Channel Tunnel between London and Paris, 100-year concession, 201 banks, $1 trillion, entirely private sector funded. I think we need to we should start, envisioning our infrastructure investments in those lines. If we need to envision in those lines, I think our system, it has become robust. It was earlier, we were in 2000, 2005, we were learning, we were trying to put, things in place. We have come a long way now, but this long way is not enough to go to that objective which many of the other peers in the world have already reached. The confidence and the enthusiasm of the private investors have to be brought in. Animal spirits have to reign in, and if that's to be done, we need to really look at risk allocations the way it is. And in the public-private partnership domain, we need to look at the partnership as a major, P. It can't be seen as a owner and contractor relations as so far has been viewed in the government circles. I think that that mindset also need to be changed, and the people as a fourth P also is very important involvement.
MG, my colleague MG Arun is managing editor India Today. MG?
Yeah, my question is to Mr. Soni. In fact, Mr. Jaishankar had touched upon when he talked about the project financing risk. He mentioned that when it comes to greenfield projects, there are a whole lot of issues outside the project risk which we need to address, and he touched upon land acquisition and other issues. the government over a long period has been, going ahead with ease of doing business in whole lot of sectors. State governments have been taking up a lot of initiatives. Maybe you could throw us some light, because you're involved in various states and developing some of the landmark projects in this country. What are some of these, special cases you are seeing in these, risk, and how, what kind of a solution, the state and the center can put forward to mitigate it?
Like Mr. Jaishankar also told that regarding this, one thing is that he has told about funding. Now you're talking about that conditions. So obviously that one thing is that the standardization of the documentation, that is very important. The project documentation should be very strong and then very clear. It should not vary from state to state. There should be a standardization so that everybody can follow that. And dispute resolution, that is another big thing which will help us to take it forward. Now your question of land acquisition ROW clearances, that we have been facing any project delay is basically for this purpose only. We have been facing in DFC corridor. You've seen that Bombay, this high-speed rail also. Sometimes we could not get the land clearance and all, so things got delayed. So these are the major areas which is having a central government focus on these projects. Still, we are finding, and then things which goes to the state governments and all, it is further more difficult. In many water projects, what we are doing, we are finding that complete treatment plant itself is, or intake wherever he has to put, there is no environmental clearances there, or maybe it is falling into the forest clearance. That's what we have suggested to DPIT also, that PM Gati Shakti, which is a very good initiative by the Government of India, where they scan through everything, they do the survey, and they put all the data in that. So, but obviously it is not available to the industry, private industries. So if you are able to make us available on a limited basis, so we can go through that, what type of clearances are available, which are the logistics are there. So we can plan our resources and everything, and then we can always cross-check what are the DPRs have been made. We can cross-check with the available data. And then obviously the single window clearance, where we were talking about that, if that comes with the partnership with state and center to get a clearance on the one place, that will go a long way. So this will help us a lot.
So gentlemen at the back.
My name is Vijay Gupta. I am the CEO of a company called Invest and Ventures, Wealth Creation Experts. My question is with respect to the change of environment, change of government, change of terms of contract. This is a enigma kind of a situation for all EPC companies. So some survive, some don't, some even die out of that. So, and when this is the environment, this is a need of not 1 year, it is a need of 10 and 20 years, which is required by the private EPC companies. Now, the history of Modi government is that they listen to GST complaints on overnight basis also. So when this is a 10 or 20 years old requirement of the EPC companies, then why the government is not listening to this?
Can you repeat what you want to ask?
Why the government is not listening on not allowing the changes with the change in the terms of the EPC contracts with the change in the government or change in the environment, so that they get all the private
Unfortunately,
EPC
both of them are from private sector. They may be knowing this answer, but they won't be able to speak at the public.
At least Mr. Jaishankar can give his view on this.
Do you want that the change has to be there or it should not be there?
It must be there.
See, that has already, we have, that I said, the first initial contracts, the initial concessions, which were there, public-private partnership concessions, which were there which were put in place in 2004, 2005. Those have undergone a lot of changes, and there are clauses today for renegotiations. Renegotiation clauses are a must. Vijay Kelkar committee in 2014 had suggested that, and based on that, these clauses have been reintroduced into the concessions. But then these clauses have to be, tailored in such a way that it has to be for the benefit of the project, not at the whims and fancies of any party, whether it's a private sector or with the the public sector. So I think, a responsible renegotiation clause introduction has already been there. And the only thing is, it is not standardized. You will not find these renegotiation clauses across available. I mean, available across the
but this
states.
completely hinders the entrepreneurship of the private sector.
I beg your pardon?
But it completely hinders the entrepreneurship of the private sector.
Yeah, it is not. That's what I'm saying. It is not, uniformly available across the states. If you are talking about the state government concessions, which is now being given out, neither the various sectors. So for airport concessions are quite different from that of the port sector or shipbuilding, or it is of course the NHAI has come a long way in this by they have a lot of learnings on that. But the state level road corporations don't have that much of experience. So that is why I said there are many concessionaires in this government, in the sectors, in different sectors. Road sectors have central as well as state players. The various other sectors have central as well as state players. And there are the private sector, the companies, the public sector companies which gives concessions. So nowhere we have a standardization of a concession agreement. If that needs to be there, the terms of a concession agreement, we need to agree which are the terms that are actually go a long way and which are very, very important to ensure the viability of the project over a long period of time. For that, it can't be policies. That's why I'm saying it can't be policies. It has to be a law. And such law exists in many countries. That's what I was telling. World Bank has also made a survey of 110 countries and have found almost 56 countries have infrastructure-specific laws.
Then in that case, my suggestion, I think 1 or 2 people from PhD chamber are here. So they should take this representation to the government in a very, very strong way. That's the only way.
Thank you. Thanks for your interventions. Any other question? Otherwise, our time is actually up. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It was really wonderful talking to you both. And I am sure that, like me, many of the listeners were also enriched and they are going home richer. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.